Welcome to today's episode, the podcast where we discuss the most recent installments of a different series every show. It is Friday, August 29th, 2025, Netflix's birthday, 1997. That's when Netflix came out. But rather than capitulate to that, today we're talking about Amazon Prime's The Terminal List: Dark Wolf, a prequel to the 2022 conspiracy thriller show that you watched.
And if you remember, the pilot for that made it on my best of list of 2022.
Yes, but you've never read the books, right?
No, I didn't. I just watched the pilot for it, and it took me a long time to actually watch the rest of the series.
But you did finish the first season.
Right.
And are you expecting good things about the second season?
Well, yeah, I was surprised to learn that it was actually renewed for season 2 because it took quite a while, right? It was renewed for season 2, like at the end
And then this came out instead.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
they told
everybody.
yeah.
It reminded me because of that almost of like Dexter Original Sin and Dexter Resurrection, because the Original Sin was like a prequel, and then I think Resurrection is supposed to be like the expanded story. You know?
Absolutely. Or like Spartacus back in the day when they decided, but that was more because they needed the main character to go get cancer treatment. Yeah, so Jack Carr, he wrote the books, the Terminal List books. He never wrote a prequel series, except he wrote James Reese's dad in like the Vietnam War or something like that.
So he never wrote a Ben Edwards backstory.
Yeah. So he's a former Navy SEAL, right? And then he started the Terminal List in 2018. Trivia question for you. Since its publication, have there been more releases of Terminal List books or more price increases on Netflix?
Oh, I think I'm going to go with more, because there's like 7 Terminal List books, right?
Maybe.
I think I'm going to go with Netflix price increases.
Oh, wow. So you went with a more risky one. It was 5 price increases, and there are 7 James Reese books: The Terminal List, True Believer, Savage Son, The Devil's Hand, In the Blood, Only the Dead, and the last one. Here's another question for you. You like puns.
Yeah.
You like the Crypt Keeper puns, right? So the last one, the last book, most recent that he released, has sort of a punny title. It's either Red Sky Mourning, Grave Intel, Soul Survivor, or The Crypt Protocol. Which one of those is his last book?
I'll go with The Crypt Protocol.
No, it was actually Red Sky Mourning. Yeah. And Lee Child, the guy who wrote Reacher, called it seriously good.
Well, I think that, especially because they came out around the same time, Reacher and The Terminal List, I feel like if you like one of those shows, you're going to like the other.
A lot of people who watch one cross over and watch the other. But there's a bit of competition, and so that might not necessarily be the case. One thing that I never understood about specifically The Terminal List is the tumor. You know?
The tumor?
Because that even exists in the books, and I thought it being a conspiracy thriller would be like the guy was set up to think he had a brain tumor. But no, like throughout the Amazon series, I've heard that he actually suffers pretty debilitating results. And even in the first episode, you get that MRI image, and it's huge. And it's like, how can this have a second season?
Well, then not only that, I mean, like, you're dealing with an unreliable narrator because of it. In fact, one of my big cons about the TV series, because I remember the pilot made it on my best of list, but the whole show, after watching it, I give it like a 6.5 out of 7. But a lot of
out of 7, so that's a very high.
Sorry, 6.5 or 7 out of 10.
Yes.
That's what I meant to say. But a lot of it I found to be annoying when it got to the backflashes, because he suffers from those like throughout every single episode multiple times.
So the PTSD version of it.
And even though he has this tumor that we're talking about, he also has like superhuman abilities. There's like a full episode, I think it's the 6th one, where he's in the mountains and he's having to fight off like FBI people. Like the whole entire time.
He is supposed to be sort of a sniper, super Navy SEAL type dude, right? So he can do anything and every. But he does take out John Wick style, just anyone who's screwed him over, including.
Yeah, I mean, like, even in episode 5, and again, probably a little bit late, but spoilers, episode 5, he takes out like a CEO in front of a crowded street with a ton of people. Like,
but he's less protected. I mean, he's taking out people who are also very well trained, is what I'm trying to say. But so we have 3-episode premiere of Dark Wolf. 3 episodes are called Inherent Resolve, The Audition, and What's Past Is Prologue. The real-life U.S.-led mission against ISIS in Iraq and Syria is the Inherent Resolve campaign. So that's where they got the title to the first episode. The last episode's title, What's Past Is Prologue, is a Shakespeare line. Do you want to guess from what Shakespeare play?
Maybe something. I'm going to guess either Hamlet or Macbeth. I'll go with like Macbeth.
The Tempest.
Oh, okay. I was not going to get it.
And coincidentally, it also was the name of SEAL Team, that show's season 5, episode 7. So it's been used before, also in like The Flash. So very popular title. And obviously the Audition is that 1999 Japanese horror film, which they wanted to pay homage to because of all the terrible things that are happening. All right. So my first question to you is going to be a lighthearted one.
Yeah.
Who says more, or who says brother more?
Oh, they say it all the time.
Desmond from Lost or this show? And I'm including the entire show, even though you've seen only the first 3 episodes. This is more of a speculative, hypothetical, what do you think? Because I know you don't know for sure.
If you do a drinking game, I feel like you would die every time they say brother in this
They made that
series.
joke. They've even like had that. But like the answer of whether or not it's Desmond from Lost or this show as a total,
it has to be this show, I feel like.
It's Desmond from Lost.
Wow. How many times does Desmond say it, do you
58.
know? 58?
And in this show, it's like 40s.
I mean, it felt like it was every single line.
Yeah. Who says it the most?
Probably, I mean, I can't pick. It's just, it's all of them, like, every single time, especially...
They only refer to each other as brothers.
Yeah, like, I think it's even one of the first things that James Reese says in the first episode, because Chris Pratt is in the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to jump into all 3, but I'm going to give my pros and cons after I give all my summaries.
Awesome. Let's jump into it. Taylor Kitsch reprises his role as Ben Edwards. For the Terminal List, you also got Chris Pratt and Jared Shaw, who played Boozer and James from the original.
I was really surprised to see how much Chris Pratt was in the first episodes. It's not a cameo. James Reese is
like
an
one extended of cameo.
I mean, he's in the first episode. I would say he's almost one of the main characters. He's passing
the torch backwards to his to Taylor Kitsch, because Chris Pratt has even said this is definitely his baby. You add on Tom Hopper in this show, Kevin Hemsworth. That's my joke on Luke Hemsworth, because he's like the third Jonas brother. Robert Wisdom plays Samuel L. Jackson type, like he's the ringleader who brings all the CIA operatives together.
Second episode, his name is Jed Haber.
He is a main character, though, right?
Yes.
Going forward. And then you've got yourself a prequel there, 7-episode prequel.
I really like the beginning scene because, as you said, it clarifies that this is going to be Ben Edwards' story. It's the exact same first scene from the Terminal List, but it's just from Ben's point of view. It's his narration, and he's watching James Reese as opposed to James Reese giving narration.
How similar is Ben Edwards in the prequel than he was in the next series, where he met his untimely demise?
Yeah, because he ended up being someone that set him up. I thought that he played the same character. He reminded me of him.
But he's got like a certain distance to go, because right now he's supposed to be making... I thought the first episode, honestly, would be like Ben Edwards and James Reese going to military school together or wherever, to Navy school.
You thought they were going all the way
back. Maybe they flash back to them as teens. Who knew?
No. We start off in 2015. So
it's only 7 years.
Yeah, only 7 years from when the original took place. We're in Mosul.
And they're already sort of friends.
Yes, right.
And then who else is their friend?
Boozer as well.
Right.
In fact, there's even a scene where James Reese is giving all his friends gifts, but you also have Rolf Hastings, played by Tom Hooper. I was glad to see that he was in the TV
Is that
series.
What you do in the military when you're not like fighting and risking your life? Is you just hand each other gifts and drink beer?
This is just one night when they were around.
Is this a military ad? Okay. Yeah.
No, this is just one night when they were around a campfire and drinking beer.
Cool.
But yeah, this was 2015, and then Ben Edwards with Boozer is told to go into Mosul, and again, James Reese is not there yet because they are going to have to try and do a hostage exchange. Jabori, who is the ISIS leader,
a hostage exchange?
Yeah, because they have Jabori captive, like they have him.
So like a Homeland episode,
right? And this is supposed to be they're trading him for 18 hostages that Mosul has.
So Jabori is who again?
Jabori is the ISIS leader.
Oh, okay. They're giving away an ISIS leader. They're getting 18 innocents.
Hostages in return.
Right.
Yeah.
And
you have to expect something to go wrong, because with the Terminalists, like when they were on the mission, that whole recon mission, there was
there was like a setup, right?
Yeah, and then there was a shootout. So during this whole entire scene, even though it was on this bridge, I was like, there has to be something.
The hairs on the back of your neck are like
right. I was like, what's going to go wrong? Because you knew something was going to, and when Jabori, I knew it was really bad when Jabori made it to his side and he just kind of gets out of there. He's going back to Syria. The hostages stop midway through, and then all the people on not Ben Edwards' side, but the other side are like, go over there, we're going to shoot you. And that's when Boozer realizes that the hostages have bombs strapped to their chest.
Not because they're suicide bombers, though, right?
No. They didn't want to go over to the U.S. side because they didn't want to die and also injure, the people.
Right. So this is unintended. Okay. So that also foreshadows stuff that happens later on in the episode, right?
Right.
So something terrible happens here. They all explode.
Well, yeah, all the hostages
body parts go everywhere.
The bridge completely falls apart to the sides. I thought that we might even get it collapsing, but that maybe probably would have been too much money for Amazon Prime at that point.
I don't know. They spend a lot of money. They did the Lord of the Rings one, right? In the Citadel, they spend up. Budapest, Croatia, Cali. Those are the places.
Oh wow!
They
So
use.
they did shoot at some great places.
I think it was in Hungary, in Budapest, that they may have done the Mosul scenes. But I'm not sure.
No, that would make sense. But the scene itself, I thought was really well done. You have Darren; he's the interpreter. He even almost turns into a main character himself in the first episode. But he gets his leg just completely shattered. I think that he sees his sister die as well. So you do get some casualties.
Yeah, I remember the interpreters were a big deal when we were exiting Afghanistan. We, as in the U.S.
Right.
I haven't been part of the military, or I'm not a veteran. But when that happened, there were so many stories about people who got stuck there, interpreters who had been promised safe passage or that their families could come over to the U.S. because they had helped out so much, and they were just trapped there as Al-Qaeda was taking over and stuff.
Yeah,
so it's really tragic. So they were taking a story like that, and they were saying there's the interpreter, something tragic happened to his family.
Yeah, his leg gets completely maimed, and then his sister he ends up seeing, she dies, and then Ben Edwards saves Darren's life. He pulls him away. It almost reminded me a little bit of Band of Brothers, because that's something that you would see in that, where they're trying to save their own people.
Right.
And then time jumps to 3 months later, and we see that the U.S. is trying to learn from this mistake. They're trying to.
I hope so.
Yeah, they're trying to get better fighters, better fighting equipment.
Can't you get the equipment that would have been able to kind of X-ray, see whether or not these people? I don't know if that's even possible, but thermal equipment to see if someone's strapped with a bomb.
Better trained, basically. That's what they were trying to do, and that's when we see James Reese. He shows up, and I really enjoyed seeing Ben Edwards and James Reese kind of get back together. Yeah, the way I think that Chris Pratt and Taylor Kitsch have a lot of chemistry. You saw it in The Terminalist, and I thought that they still have that chemistry here in his show in Dark Wolf.
Right.
But then we follow Darren, and we start to realize that Darren, he is just all for the U.S. He's wanting to get
still
back.
The interpreter storyline.
Well, yeah, he wants to get back into the U.S. even though he hurt his foot, and his family has been kind of promised safe passage to the U.S.
Can he still move around though? Because if he can still move around, they can always use an interpreter.
He's on crutches.
Okay.
But you see that Ben Edwards isn't even really for it. He's like, who told you to re-enlist? What exactly is going on here? You should just be going to Disneyland with your family. But he's not for that.
He had the opportunity to go to the U.S.?
Yeah.
And he passed on it?
Yeah, no. His family did too. And then he's like, you know what? I want to stay here. My family can go to the U.S. So I think that they were trying to do that because what happens later on, a couple scenes later, is Jabori has tracked him down and found him.
It sounds like they're trying to set up Ben, because Ben Edwards has to go through a break in his mind. And if he's really close to someone and their family and he sees something terrible happen to them, that could be enough to do that.
And it was cool to see because Ben Edwards is almost like an uncle. I like the scene where he's giving the kids gifts and things like that. That was cool. I thought, Ben Edwards as a character is just so likable. It's part of the reason why I liked him so much.
He's more lighthearted, I would assume, here.
Yes, right.
But you got to know that that's going to change rather quickly.
It's going to change because Jabari has tracked down Darren. And Darren has to put a brace on his leg.
The terrorist leader has tracked down the interpreter.
Right. He told the Nawi, who is a different terrorist who works for him, to make this Day of the Jackal brace, which is supposed to have an explosive.
You mean a James Bond type thing?
Right.
Where it's
because they know he's going to have to go through a security checkpoint with metal, and so therefore it's just supposed to be his brace. I thought that was cool.
So a bomb in a leg.
Yes,
Got it.
So I always like seeing the kind of creative stuff like that, even though again, like you said, bad things were going to happen.
Are we still in the first episode, or does this go? Okay, all right. So all the Mosul stuff, first episode.
Right.
Good.
So Ben Hastings, Ramirez, Boozer, they all are told to kind of track Denawi, figure out what's going on. And during this scene where they're kind of going through the streets, trying to see exactly who Denawi is, because
they already know he's a terrorist, but like they're just trying to track him down.
To kind of figure out his schedule. That's when it turns out that Ben Edwards gets a call from Darren, and he picks up, and Darren is just like, "I'm sorry." And just from those two words and a click afterwards, Ben is like, "We have to get back to base immediately."
He's a smart guy. He can put two and two together. Right. And so do you think he knows right off the bat that like the terrorist has gotten the interpreter's family? And
he knew something was up. He knew that like it probably Darren was not going to be alive in the next couple minutes.
Right. So Darren does die, right?
Yes. Yeah, no. So Landry, Luke Hemsworth even sees in this cafeteria that something's going on. He walks outside, and what I thought was the best artistic part of the Terminalist Dark Wolf so far is when the bomb goes off, it's completely silent. Like, it was almost like that scene in Star Wars: The Last Jedi where you see the ship kind of go through the other one and it's just silence afterwards.
You see it in a lot of war shows or whatever, where it's like one character's caught in it and survives, but you hear the silence and then the ringing, the high-pitched ringing as their ears are trying to adjust, and then the muffled sound of it. Did anybody survive the actual blast, though?
Yeah, no, Landry is taken off his feet. Again, Luke's Hemsworth character literally
But you said he was outside.
Yeah, he's right outside. But in terms of, like, the people inside, they all died. I think it was, like, 7 people, including Darren.
So if you take the 18 hostages at the start, and then you take all these people, like, what's the death count by the end of the episode?
I'd say around probably 30 to 40.
Okay.
Around that. Because also Darren's wife dies and his kids have been taken. So now, even though we're only halfway through the first episode, Ben Edwards, he's on a mission. He wants to get those kids back. He wants to get them the safe passage to the U.S. But when he goes to the commanders, Fuller is there. That's the guy it was hard to take him seriously because he's played by Chris, has a long last name, but from Silicon Valley in episodes.
Yeah,
he's playing a very serious character here, and it was hard for me to take him seriously because he plays such funny characters in those other ones. But yeah, no, he's talking to everyone, including Landry, and he's just like, "Guys, we need to go after Jabori." And then he starts to realize, he picks up context clues, I think from Commander Cox as well, that Jabori is actually a U.S. informant. I thought that was a smart twist.
The guy who taught the interpreter to blow up the cafeteria?
The ISIS leader. He's a U.S. informant.
But, like, why did the U.S. not just say, don't do that then? Like, don't they have any control over him at all?
I think that
he can still do these like uncoordinated missions where he's just
the U.S.
killing a lot of U.S. people. That's
the
U.S.
so crazy. Is almost at a disadvantage with him because they're having to give intel or missions
to him.
No, not to him, but to the army. That is that's not even good.
I can see why that would be frustrating. So I'm assuming our main crew find out about that.
Yeah, and I thought that the dichotomy that they were setting up for this full season of having this like incredibly like villainous character, but someone that almost has kind of like you were saying plot armor, or he can't be killed because he's helping the U.S. technically, would be something that was very interesting to kind of track and follow. But it was made.
You didn't know it was only one episode.
It was made all the more weird when they end up going on this mission and Ben Edwards finds Jabori and then just ends up killing him. I thought that they took away all the chances of making what could have been a cool season arc.
You didn't like the idea that the guy got vengeance on his interpreter?
It's not that he got vengeance. It's that he got vengeance so early. Like, they killed off a character that I think could have been a fine villain for the full first season.
Yeah, but like they weren't going to make Dark Wolf into like this long-range thing. They only have 7-year gap, and they have to have Ben Edwards go from a Navy SEAL or whatever, a chief, and then go into the CIA, and then like go into a completely different story, right?
Yeah, but like I mean, they did so much to introduce the two villains, Jules Landry and Jabori and Denawi. But then, like, they ended up killing them off because, like, I'll skip ahead a little bit to episode 2. At the very end, Denawi ends up dying. So the two villain characters, there was no...
Oh, so I saw a little bit of episode 2. So
yeah.
Denawi makes his way to Germany after this.
Frankfurt.
And he's just doing drug deals or whatever on the side in nightclubs. And that's who they're chasing down?
Yeah, no. So exactly. Because Denawi, I thought that he was way less, like, threatening than Jabori was.
I would just wonder, why is he hanging out in Syria if he could have just been been in Germany the whole time. If he has those resources, you think that like war-torn country versus like, I don't know, high life living with his money is kind of a strange
Well,
thing for a
also, yeah,
terrorist to.
but like from what you saw in the second episode, was there anything that Denawi did? Because like, they're hanging out at this nightclub setting with like bad things going on. Reminds me a
Before we
little bit
get
of
there, though, so
Griselda.
I do want to, like, how does Ben Edwards get from he kills one of the informants, which obviously is going to get him in a lot of trouble.
Everyone starts freaking out, and that's when James Reese comes up with an idea. He's like, you know what, we gotta set it up. We gotta set up a story as if he was reaching for a weapon, and you ended up putting him down that way. And they did some stuff with zip ties, but it doesn't end up working out too well, even with that, because in episode 2, right away almost, Ben and Hastings, they're dishonorably discharged from the army.
So the army picks up on the fact of what happened, even though they set it up.
And I like that.
So dishonorably discharged or honorably discharged?
You know what? It probably was honorably
No,
discharged.
because they do take away their tridents, right?
Right, yeah.
So
But the army did like kind of say their names as they were leaving in like a sign of respect.
so there's, well, the colleagues, because everybody understood why they did what they did, but like who knows if the generals or the people in charge. Yeah, so he leaves along with who?
Along with Hastings.
And why does Hastings leave? Because if
Hastings is just done with it. He just wants to, he's like, you know what? And I think he realized that with Ben Edwards already probably having to leave
But
anyways.
it looked like James was in the second episode going to sacrifice himself. And then that's when Roth decided to do so instead. So it looked like they were looking to cut 2 people regardless of what happened.
Well, and I like that too. I like how it wasn't just like the army decided to just automatically go with the story, even though they all agree that they're going to cover up, all being like Boozer and the people that know Ben. The army was not dumb enough to be like, oh, okay, this actually happened. I like that they were smart enough to pick up that they were covering for what Ben did.
So Roth and Taylor Kitsch's character,
Yes.
Edwards, they head to Germany to then head back to the U.S., right?
Yes.
But then they get delayed in Germany.
The fights get canceled. Perhaps one of my favorite scenes out of all 3 episodes is, because I thought it was really funny, is when Ben Edwards goes up to Hastings at the hotel and he's telling him things that the concierge has given him, all the trips that
I would have honestly
take.
preferred, if they wanted to go a lighthearted way with this show, 3-4 more episodes where they were just, going backpacking and kayaking and romantic vacationing across Europe together.
And why is that? Because I think that it may just be Taylor Kitsch's likable presence, but he has good chemistry with Tom Hooper.
I also like the
as
Umbrella
well.
Academy, dude.
I'm saying he has good chemistry with Tom Hooper.
Did you see how many beers were already at the table?
It
He
was
had
like 10.
Yeah, and then he was going to do 12 more. I mean, I guess if you're used to it and he's a big guy, you saw him as a bigger guy in Umbrella Academy. But yeah, so they're friendly, and then
he goes up to get the 12 beers that you're talking about, and Jed Haverford
from Prison Break, from Barry, this guy's been around.
I thought that his introductory scene was cool because he automatically knows everything about Ben Edwards. He's kind of like the ringleader, and I was like, oh, okay, this is an interesting character.
He schmoozes with them, and he convinces them rather quickly that they should join his CIA operation because, like, he knows how to do stuff, and they are not going to feel satisfied with themselves until they do this killing for him.
Hastings has some kind of he's not wanting to do it right away. He has to kind of be convinced.
Right, but they know that there's this terrorist on the loose, and they feel responsible, I guess, for him still being on the loose. And so that is part of the reason why they both decide to join up. And then you meet these other people who are kind of just there. They're like kind of the FUBAR team, but a more serious version. Right?
I had it as Countdown. That's the thing. Like kind of right when we were introduced to Mossad operative Tall and waitress Eliza, that's when I felt like not only the episode but the series as a whole kind of it went down in my opinion, because so far we had 2 pretty interesting episodes of like Ben Edwards and seeing what exactly he had to go through prior to the Terminalists. I liked all the stuff in the military, but when they got to like trying to take down Denawi and how cartoonish of a villain Denawi was, I felt like...
You didn't like the nightclub scene?
No, I didn't like the nightclub scene at all.
The nightclub scene reminded me of the very beginning of Batman Beyond, where like the dancing people in the intro to that, like it's the blue lighting and there's like disco playing. But I didn't mind it. Like, especially the running after fight scene in the middle of the streets, it's not believable, but it is a little bit like the anti-hero show that you were just talking about, the Jackal one.
Yeah, Day of the Jackal.
Where he's like running through and trying to kill someone, right? Because even the smart move with the light, where Taylor Kitsch's character is tracking down one of the bodyguards, and he like turns on the light and then he goes the opposite direction than it looked like he was about to go.
The action in the scene is always shot well.
Yeah.
Even in the episodes that I didn't like, I thought that the actions was still shot well. It's just the fact that I found the story to be a lot less entertaining. Like, I didn't really care about Denawi. And like,
you like the fraternity of the army more.
Yes, I like seeing them all interact with one another. Like, this new team, I was just
it does feel like they downscaled the cast, because if you look like at the first season, you got like random people like JD Pardo, Jai Courtney, Patrick Schwarzenegger, Arturo, Riley Keough. Like, they all just like popped out of nowhere, and they're there for a while. And in this one, it's like once the first episode ends, you're really stuck with like 4 people.
Yeah, and then even less of a cast, because it turns out that Hastings ends up killing Denawi at the end of the second episode. So
I wasn't including Denawi as one of the main cast.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Fair. But I'm just saying that like the 2 villains that they set up for the season, like the thing about the original Terminal List is that whenever you were following James Reese, yes, there were parts of that series that could be boring, but you were always clear as to what his objective was. He was trying to hunt down the people on the list.
That was one of my main questions, was considering the new source material, the fact that they had to alter it, like that they had to go back and change it, and it's already a little bit altered from the book storyline. Like, Ben isn't a nice guy in the original book. Does it ever feel directionless?
Yes.
You just answered that.
By the end of the second episode, I had no idea where the plot was going to go. And then episode 3 gave me no hope for the potential of this series.
You've given up on the potential of the series?
Yes, just because of episode 3.
What did it do?
Because it goes with more of an ensemble route. Ben and Hastings, even though they were the main characters and I was happy to track them throughout the first 2 episodes, take a back seat to this character named Mo, because it becomes more an ensemble. We are introduced to Mo. He's part of Jed's group. Tao, who we mentioned last episode. Landry, who has made his way all the way from Mosul.
Right, so they're bringing the fraternity of Mosul all to them, as opposed to the other way around.
Well, no hard feelings, because apparently Landry was fired due to what Ben and Hastings pulled back in.
You mean when they shot the terrorists?
And then you also have Ish, played by Michael Ealy, literally the perfect guy from the 2015 film.
Oh, okay.
Where he played the evil villain in that.
Right.
And then they have to track Denawi's nuclear dealings. So even though Denawi is dead, they have to figure out what he's doing.
Yeah. So they got Denawi's phone, and they also got him. And because through his phone, I'm assuming they figured out, he's got a bunch of other stuff that he's doing.
Right. And
that's a little 24-ish.
And it could have gone an interesting way if it didn't play out like it was a episode of CSI. Like, it was even as light as that, because no characters take any real risks in it. For some reason, Mo, he's the one that we really follow. He poses as Denawi to meet Professor Molnar. He even finds Denawi's daughter.
Is Molnar like considered a low-key terrorist?
Yes, right. He's supposed to be helping them. Mm-hmm. And then also he visits Denawi's daughter Thana, and we're supposed to think that he killed her, even though he really let her go. It just seemed like it started to take this really dark story, especially when you compare the Terminal List as well, and then just started to flip it on its head, and it was like,
the mission starts to get pretty convoluted.
We're a very light show. Yeah, I didn't really understand why, because even the scenes with like Hastings, for example, Hastings and Landry start to bond and talk about Tarzan. I was like, what is happening with this TV show? Is this still episode 1 where like we had the dark story of Ben killing Jabori right in his face?
He's trying to live his life up. And in the second episode, you did like the funnier moments. So
yes, but that was because it was mixed in with this very dark story.
That's why I think like if this whole third episode, which is what I'm getting, was bright.
It was so...
Then the fourth episode must be dark.
Maybe, but it also just felt so soap opera-y. There was a long scene where Mo and Tall talk about their past. Ben and Amy, they continually throughout the 3 episodes... So
Amy's his wife back in the States?
Yeah. And
you don't see her, though, do you?
You don't. You just only hear her voice.
Yeah.
But they are always talking on the phone, and this goes for all 3 episodes. They're always fighting. And so I'm wondering
what... they're not together in the next series, right?
Yes.
He's a loner in the
I don't
next
even
series.
think that we see Amy me in the terminal list.
Exactly.
But because of that, it feels like it's such an unneeded plot. Like, why bother? These episodes are already an hour long. We don't need to, like, throw in this random drama that's happening.
But, like, when it comes to Mo faking being the guy that they just killed, that sounds like that could have been an interesting story had they done it correctly. What's the main flaw with how this ends? Like, where is it just live on a cliffhanger and then you're just like, what's going to happen?
Well, right as he's talking with the Professor Molnar, people kind of start to realize that that they're like, wait, Denawi's dead. Why is this person saying he's
Who realizes Denawi's dead first?
It's this outside force because we see a lot of people start chasing after Mo.
Okay.
And so, like, you get
because all it would take is like one bodyguard who knew what Denawi looks like to be like, that's not the same dude.
Right.
Right.
But in the end, it's really just kind of a chase scene, and I did like the final 5 minutes because there's one part where one of the hostiles he goes onto the subway, and then Ben chases after him, and then in the final 5 minutes it was intense because you could see that they were kind of like eyeing each other. The guy has a knife, and then right as the bus stops, he shoots him like a couple times. Ben shoots him and kills him.
Never bring a knife to a gunfight, bro. Like, that's a given.
It was a cool final scene, but it was just like overall the episode itself was really boring. Also,
by the end of the episode, though, have they stopped whatever deal that they've been trying to stop?
Yeah, I mean,
Good.
they have, but like the thing is that also Ish, who I mentioned earlier, the perfect guy, he ends up dying, but we don't even know who he is. I thought that it would have been more smart to make it Mo who died because, again, we have been following him the whole episode, and I thought that since we got backstory on him, had they killed him or had they given Ish Mo's backstory, it would have worked better. But overall, just killing Ish, he has a couple lines throughout the whole entire episode. We don't even really learn too much about the guy.
Okay, so he's in and he's out. And so I would just think that Amazon Prime would want to release the 3 episodes, and the third episode would have the biggest cliffhanger of all of them. Otherwise, just release 1 or 2. Right?
I think that they should have released the first 2 because I'm pretty sure that it's just going to be them doing missions for this new team, and I was just not for it. The first episode I enjoyed. So I would give it like a 6.5. The second episode I was going to give a 6 to, but this third episode I'm going to give like a 3 out of 10 to.
Okay, so you're with it had mixed reviews, kind of like the first one. Metacritic has a 66 for it. Collider and Roger Ebert really liked it, which is funny because RogerEbert.com didn't like the first series. However, different writers for that.
It's so different by the time you get to the third episode. It didn't even feel like it was the Terminalist anymore.
It turned to a different show.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So this is the backstory as to how this like second season and all that worked. Was in September of 2022, you got David DeGilio, who's the showrunner and also creator of the first season. He met up with Jack Carr along with Max Adams, who's an executive producer, but who also, I think, wrote some of the second and third episodes that you watched. You want to guess what he also wrote? Expendables 4.
Expendables.
Is it? Yes. Yeah. And then Jared Shaw was also there, and they all like zoomed in and did a deep dive on what Dark Wolf would be about. And it also, in the first Terminal List podcast we did, I know we mentioned Tron. He had his like David DeGilio.
Tron 3. Yeah.
He had written a script in like 2011, and he's still, as of the Tron Ares movie coming out, credited as one of the writers.
Wow.
So that's, I don't know how much material
coming
they kept
out in
of
like October or November, yeah.
But I was curious, like you're talking about, because they didn't have source material, who wrote and directed these episodes? It seems like that would be consequential.
Right.
First episode was DeGilio and Jack Carr. They worked together.
Okay. Yeah, see, so the first episode, and I don't know if Jack Carr worked on it anymore, but again, it felt the most like the Terminal List.
He had more of his hands in this series than he did in Terminal List.
Okay.
He's even credited as one of the creators, as well as the writer of the books.
All right.
So, and then the first 2 episodes, the director is pretty well known. Frederick E.O. Toy, he's a frequent collaborator with J.J. Abrams, worked on things like Shogun and Fallout as well. Seems like really good at his job. Then you had Liz Friedlander, also has plenty of like filmography stuff. Gossip Girl, Shining Vale, The Boys, Bad Monkey, did like a full season of Stalker. So they got good directors. But when you talk about the third episodes, like style wise, I'm not surprised that it's different than the first 2 because it seems like different types of shows that they worked on.
I just didn't know why they did thing like Thana's fake out because again, you're supposed to think that Mo killed Thana, who was Denawi's daughter, and then like 5 minutes later, they do what every single other TV TV show did, and they flash back and you see that he really didn't shoot her. He shot the pillow next to her.
That's very much like, what was the British, not Mobland series, but something that was like a gang series that had Sean Bean in it, but when we watched it...
City of Fire.
City of Fire, yeah, he did something very similar where he went up to the car and he was about to kill the guy's family, and then he just chickened out.
It's done in all TV shows.
Yeah.
I don't understand why.
But 5 of the 7 episodes of Dark Wolf, because one of the biggest promos of the series is how authentic it is and how it really embraces veteran culture and stuff like that, were written by military veterans. Max Adams is also like an Army Ranger. So when he wrote the 2nd episode, he counts as one, Carr counts as one, and then I don't think who penned with Max Adams, Naomi Lazuka, but she had written in things like The Sympathizer, Bosch, Tokyo Vice, The Terror. So I would have expected the 3rd episode to be better than you're saying it was.
One of the funny things about the show, though, was that in the 2nd episode and 3rd episode is when they played the intro, and I like the intro. It's a lot like the Terminalist intro, where they show, I believe it's Ben's place, at least Ben's house, and in the Terminalist, it's John Reese's garage. But I find it funny because they only listed 3 names in the 2nd episode with Chris Pratt, Taylor Kitsch and Tom Hooper in the cast list before they jumped into like the director and stuff. But they didn't mention, and this has like famous people, Robert Wisdom, Luke Hemsworth, Michael Ealy, but like they were left out. It was only 2 people before they started to jump into like the production.
I don't know if Luke Hemsworth has enough in his like bank of stuff he's done. Obviously Westworld, but like
it's just you don't usually see an intro that lists the 2 famous people and then that's it. No rest of the cast.
I didn't expect Tom Hopper to have so much of a role in this show. But speaking of Friday Night Lights star Taylor Kitsch, did you know that Netflix and Peacock were in sort of bidding war for the future of that series, right?
Because I think that he said that he was going to play like a cameo in the pilot or something.
I don't know about that, but Netflix was actually outbid by Peacock. And what's funny about that is Netflix paid $320 million for The Electric State, which was the 16th film in history to cost over $300 million. It has the lowest Rotten Tomatoes score.
That was the Chris Pratt, Millie Bobby Brown.
All of the 300 over cost movies. Like I went to the list, and Chris Pratt, it was Chris Pratt's movie. That's why I'm adding it to here. Chris Pratt, do you want to guess what his highest Rotten Tomatoes score movie is? It's pretty easy to know.
Avengers Endgame?
Nope. No. Lego Movie. 96%. And then he has actually 2 lower than the 14% that Electric State got. Any guesses on those 2?
No, I don't know. Oh, Movie 43.
You got one of them.
And, I don't know what the last one is.
Bride Wars was the second one. Okay, and then I just wanted to shout out prequels just as far as comparisons are concerned real quick. We last addressed this thing that's going on in Outlander. There always been an option. You've got Spartacus, Gods of the Arena, Citadel, Honey Bunny, Young Sheldon. But recently, there's been like a plethora. Outlander, Dexter, New Blood, Alien, which I'm really enjoying. Andor, Welcome to Derry hasn't even come out yet, but that's like in the taking
next
place.
Month, right?
No, I was going to say it takes place, 30 years before the kids is it placed in the 60s or something? And then Mobland was originally supposed to be a prequel as well.
I remember, to Ray Donovan.
And then you look at Amazon spy thrillers, and you can't escape those either. You mentioned Countdown, but as far as rogue covert enforcement shows, Butterfly is out at the same time as this. So you have Countdown, Butterfly, and Terminal List Dark Horse all streaming at the same time. I wonder whose decision that was. Also, you have things like Reacher, Jack Ryan, and this, like, if you have Jack Ryan, Jack Reacher, and James Reese all under one platform, you are targeting one specific audience.
Oh, yeah, no.
100%. Those action thriller people, and Patriot, if you want to include Patriot, that old show with Michael, whatever his face is. For All Mankind.
I was a little surprised that they called it The Terminalist, because I know that they wanted to keep it in the same world as the original series, but The Terminalist is called The Terminalist because there's a list of people he wants to kill.
Oh, I thought it was partially because he was terminally ill.
Well, that too.
Yes.
But it's like here...
It does have double meanings.
But here it's like, it's just called The Terminalist straight up, I think, for marketing reasons. I'm going to give this series, I realized I didn't say it, 5 out of 10.
5? That's still higher than, like, that's average.
Yeah.
That's average. So you're going to check out the 4th episode or not?
No.
Okay. It's funny because Kitsch jumped on this show. Like, obviously, he was executively producing. He had some words about like what direction was going to go for his character. But he had just finished another series. What was that other series?
Oh,
Happy birthday to Netflix. It was American Primeval. So he finishes that. He gets 2 weeks off. He breaks some bones, I think, during that, and then he like comes in and does this. So that must have been fun for him. He's also like very big into this place that's called Howler's Ridge, which is this nature retreat that he's making for trauma healing in Montana, for veterans, for domestic violence victims, and for the sober community, because his sister apparently had been a drug addict for a long time, but then she's been sober for like 9 years. So I wanted to point that out, because as far as the promotion for the series, you're going to get a lot of people being like, yes, pro vets, woo. But like, that was a pretty cool one. The fact that he's actually doing that. As I said, Collider, Roger Ebert, they liked it. Decider said the title sounded a little bit more like an airport novel. And then hello, John Grisham for that. And then Variety said it's basically just Ben having no personality except saying brother a lot. Yeah.
I think I saw Variety said that it was something like just a lot of macho posturing.
Okay, but you didn't let that affect your opinion. Okay, well, that's it for us. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
Bye.